So welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. So we have our next venture. Please give a warm welcome to Grit Trailer Company, all the way from University of Oregon, United States of America. So let me remind the team, you have 30 minutes, okay? 30 minutes, and then after 5 minutes, it will become fully interactive. That means the judges can ask questions after 5 minutes, okay? We will have 3 time warnings, one at the 5 minutes to allow for interactive session, and then 3 minutes and 1 minute before the end. Okay, please keep your eyes on the lovely ladies in front here for the timekeepers. So, you ready?
Yep.
Yeah?
Ready.
Okay, make sure your mic is
all the way
on. All right.
There you go.
Okay, so we'll start the clock as soon as you start.
Okay,
good luck.
Cool. Hi, everyone. We are Pharos Freight Innovations, formerly Grit Trailer Company. We're from the University of Oregon, and we are here to move the trucking industry into a greener future. My name is Naha. I have a background in engineering, and I'm focusing my MBA on innovation. I've worked as an innovation consultant, and this past summer, I worked at Jaguar Land Rover Incubator. This is Michael Chisholm. His background is in engineering as well, and his focus is sustainability. He has experience in manufacturing in the automotive space, as well as his family owning a trucking company, and he himself has been a truck driver. This is Jed Womack. He's got a background in accounting, and his focus is finance. He works at Wells Fargo as a banker with logistics and manufacturing companies to help them in different business capacities, as well as very active in the Oregon startup scene. So the biggest problem that we see in moving the trucking industry into a greener future is diesel fuel. This is broken down into 2 areas, cost and emissions. In the US alone, they spend $100 billion on fuel. For each of these companies, it accounts for 1/3 of the operating costs. And in terms of emissions, it's slated to increase by 25% to get stricter over the next 10 years. Our concept will help them spend less on diesel fuel and lower their emissions. So our value proposition is we will help them save $10,000 a year per trailer. This will also translate to 129,000 pounds of CO2 per trailer per year. And all of that kind of equates to increasing the acceleration of the adoption of electrification in the trucking industry. So now we're going to go over the market and our product.
So everyone knows the obvious solution to eliminate diesel fuel is electrification. As you can see from our positioning graph, the entire industry is focused on bringing electrification through the semi-truck. With one exception, with the startup Hyliion, they're retrofitting both trailers and trucks with regenerative braking. We at Pharos Freight Innovations see a blue ocean opportunity to bring electrification to the freight industry through plug-in electric trailers. So the trailer market is a huge global business generating $41 billion of annual revenue. We'll be launching in North America, where $10 billion of annual revenue. Within North America, we have a target market that encompasses about 11,000 trailers. Companies like UPS that own their own equipment, have dedicated routes between warehouses, transport primarily consumer goods, and have a historic leadership in innovation with fuel efficiency technologies. This is our target market, and in encompassing it, we can capture up to $500 million in revenue per year. So looking at this system, we have a semi-truck that attaches to a trailer and pulls it. The trailer houses the freight, which is loaded through a warehouse dock. So our technology focuses on the trailer portion of this technology. So we will be installing batteries underneath the trailer bed, and this energy that's stored in the batteries will power an electric hybrid drive that we will install on the trailers. Putting this technology on the trailers means we will be compatible with existing diesel assets and deliver fuel efficiency performances, reducing our customers' costs and emissions. Now, an additional advantage of placing this technology on the trailers is we can now position charging stations at loading docks. This allows us to take advantage of the natural downtime in the trucking process while we unload and load freight, so that our customers do not need to take downtime on their route to recharge their batteries. So we have taken this idea to customers in the industry. We've talked to over 30 professionals, and we have 2 main takeaways. There is a market need for this product, and we are targeting the correct target market. I'd like to focus on 3 of these conversations. The first is with UPS, the largest freight distributor in North America. So talking to sustainability manager, Ben, we figured out more of UPS's strategy and the rolling lab team and how they bring this technology to market. We are looking to network further with the UPS team. We're currently trying to set up a meeting with their manager of their newly forming startup incubator. Now with Walmart, we talked to Elizabeth. She led Walmart's doubling fleet efficiency by 2015 efforts. And we got a lot of insights into the business perspective of how to bring these technologies to market. And although we all want to improve sustainability, she made the point that it needs to justify the business case. And typically with Walmart and a lot of other customers in this industry, they look for a 2-year payback period. Now the last company on this list you may have never heard of. This is the North American Council on Freight Efficiency. The organization's existence is to communicate with companies such as UPS, Walmart, and companies as small as my family's trucking company in Detroit, Michigan, about what innovation technologies are on the market and which ones are most suitable for their various applications. So talking with Mike, their executive director, we got a lot of key insights on how this process takes place, and we plan on using this as a way to communicate our product to our target customers. So, with our customers looking for a 2-year payback period, and we want to establish a successful, profitable company of our own, we think the best approach is through a razor and blade business model. So through the razor side of the business model, we will retrofit the trailers with batteries and an electric drivetrain for about $20,000 a trailer. This is close to the cost, a slight premium, and this is designed on purpose to lower the capital barriers to hit that 2-year payback target and to accelerate proliferation within the industry. On the blade side of the business model, we will be charging a 6 cent per kilowatt hour surcharge for the electricity to recharge the batteries on the trailer. This will allow for stable, profitable revenue flows over the expected 10-year life of the trailer and batteries. And this also, not only does our customer not need to charge on their routes, this price point is also competitive with those various charging equipments along the route.
All right, so now that we've talked a little bit about the problem and our unique way of attacking it, let's talk about what it's going to take in order for us to reach these goals. We are seeking $1.1 million in startup and pilot investment. What this will allow us to do is create a pilot in order to, So we're going to be looking for staged investment from seed investors with individual milestones over the next 12 to 18 months. In doing this, we'll reduce the risk for the initial investors, as well as allow us to develop the product through a natural life cycle. At that point, with 1.1, we'll be able to have executed a pilot with one of our target with a target consumer within our market, and at that point, we will look to, we'll look to scale based off of that. We'll be seeking additional investment from institutional investors in the industry. By 2021, we expect revenue of $15 million. Given the razor and blade model, what we're seeing is an increased profitability as well as revenue generation because it's a function of the number of trailers we have within our system. By 2023, we're estimating 45% or $45 million in annual revenue. Yes, correct.
I have 2 questions. So I presume you don't have an actual prototype at the moment, right?
Yes. So we are in the
just conceptual.
Yes, we are in the concept stage.
Design.
Yes.
Okay. So I have 2 questions.
Yes.
First question: this laser blade model, okay, sounds interesting for you, but I'm not so sure about customer. Had you discussed with them about this pricing model? Because I'm not so sure whether they are familiar with this kind of pricing. And have you run any financial analysis on, let's say, what would be the total impact to customer financials? Let's say they adopt your solution for 5 years.
Yeah, so that's a great question. One of the things we've looked at was really trying to hit that 2-year payback period, because that was a main pain point with the institution or with the companies that we had talked to. And so the razor blade model allows us to do that. And really over the course of the expected 10 years life of the trailer, the companies are going to be basically saving close to $80,000.
Are you making something, or what are you
No,
doing?
we're a systems integrator.
Who's making this?
So the benefit of this is we're not investing in technology risk. So there's plenty of companies out there investing in new battery research, and we plan to be a buyer of this technology and be a systems integrator and bring this technology to the market in a new way.
So you just have like an office?
Yeah, and we will retrofit the trailers as well.
You're gonna retrofit the trailers yourselves.
Yes, for our initial 1.1
So you'll
million.
buy some of the things from these guys who have made them, bring them to your location, and then retrofit the trailers or at the location of the customer.
Yes, and this is common in the industry.
Okay.
So there's a
my
large
question is
aftermarket.
this: it seems like if that's the case, then you're gonna get some inventory from them, some product that you're then gonna install onto by retrofitting. But I'm looking at your balance sheet, and there's only cash and fixed assets. I don't see any inventory. In addition, I see that by the time you get to year 5, 87% of your balance sheet is cash. I don't see it accounted for on the balance sheet.
Yeah, so we've actually updated the business plan since then. I apologize that we didn't get that to you before, but it's something that we're looking at too. So in our new projections, we are projecting basically just in time of just 1 month. So we'll know what our orders are going to be 1 month in advance, and then that way we can continue to purchase the inventory necessary to meet those
But
needs.
let's go back to
Yeah.
the fact that you're just a systems integrator, because it was one of the points that I wanted to touch upon, all right? What is to stop other shops that are currently working on semi-trailers and doing other work from just also buying exactly the same raw material component parts, and also doing exactly the same retrofitting work? What is it about you or your integration that makes this proprietary? Because what I didn't see was, if we're talking more in tech terms, the proprietary middleware that holds this all together. All I saw was that you'd come up with an interesting idea of enabling self-powered trailers to reduce the diesel consumption, but I'm not quite sure what stops anybody else who's already got much better infrastructure in terms of running a body shop for semi-trailers from replicating this.
Yes, and that's a good point. And currently, the trailer manufacturing industry, talking with people in the industry, they're focused on innovation to improve aerodynamics and reduce weight. So this electrification isn't on their radar at the time.
So they don't want this big profit that you got.
Maybe they will once they see us.
But wait,
That's the problem.
Yes. Yeah. So we're pursuing intellectual property protection. So we're currently in the process of developing a provisional patent, and we plan on further innovating. This is our first idea, and there's also a software component to the system to communicate with the tractor, and we want to make this kind of a data point, collect information, because information is power. So if we can collect information about the trips and use our charging equipment as download ports, that can provide another competitive
Well,
advantage.
that was another question I had in terms of the relationship between the trailer and the semi now, right? How does this affect the driving experience? How do you coordinate the power that's coming from the drivetrain on the trailer with what the actual truck is doing? What is the connectivity requirement between the actual vehicle itself and this trailer? And the other question I had is anybody else, electric or not, doing a power-assisted or self-powered semi-trailer in order to reduce the fuel consumption and create efficiency?
Yes, so the last part of your question, like the company we showed there, the startup Hyliion, they're retrofitting for regenerative braking on the semi-truck. So we're going to plug-in that allows us to capture a lot more energy and deliver a lot more energy for fuel savings. So that would be the advantage of this plug-in system over solely regenerative brakes. And excuse me, what was your first part of your question?
What the requirement for coordination or integration between the trailer and the truck is?
Yes, so we definitely need to talk, and one of the key things we need to know is when the driver's pushing the gas pedal. So we need to communicate with the trailer's electric control unit. Now you want to speak to that a little
Yeah,
bit?
so
What's the Department of Transportation's requirements of now you're talking about how you're integrating with the actual equipment that's been DOT approved. What is the requirements that you need to prove to be able to start playing with that?
Definitely. So let me answer Robert's question, the first part of it. So speaking with Daimler Trucks, they said that the truck cab itself is composed of multiple various computers that control many aspects of the truck. They themselves are working to integrate it into a single box. So depending on who we're working with, say a UPS, they'd be buying all their trucks from the same spot. So we'd be able to figure out how to communicate with that specific unit.
And then, so for the regulations, so we want to put in layers of protection to prevent, say, the electric drive from spinning when you don't want it to. So one obvious key is when the driver's pushing the gas pedal, that'll be the only time it engages. Then if he hits the brakes, that'll immediately disengage. If the trailer's not in line with the cab, we could have sensors that detect that.
And how long does
would
it
shut
take to
off.
get approval from DOT for those modifications that you're bringing into the system?
And we've in the preliminary research stages of the DOT requirements, this is kind of a new product as far as the trailer, so we haven't found anything jumping out at us yet, but we're not reinventing the wheel, so there's a lot of electric vehicles out there, and there's systems that use
So can I,
internal combustion engine
can
and
I ask you
electric.
just to take a big picture perspective for just a moment?
Yes.
Like, what's the key problem in the industry? For instance, in Thailand, we have trucks that run on natural gas from point to point. They carry the natural gas behind the cab of the truck, no problem. They can refill from point to point. You're talking about point-to-point deliveries with UPS, an example. But what's the problem? It's just that it's a lot of batteries that have to be carried, or there's no charging, or it's too heavy. Just so I understand, what is the problem that you're really trying to solve here?
So there's a lot of business risk. Particularly in my conversation with Walmart, they've done a lot of research into this, and there's a lot of business risk with going fully natural gas or fully electric. So we are giving them a product that is a first stepping stone towards going fully electric. You still have the safety and security and reliability of your diesel asset to lean on while you're incorporating new technology and getting
I'm
trust in
talking
it.
about the innovators right now.
Yeah.
You've got a good page of new entrants here that explains the different innovations that are going on. But we know if one of those makes a major breakthrough, like getting to be able to store the power in the size of something like this, I'm sorry, the risk for Walmart or UPS is not going to be a problem. They're going to love that. They're going to put that one power pack on the truck, and it's going to run for 1,000 miles. So, but that's not the case. There are limitations that these guys are facing, and I just want to understand that first before I think about your solution for the industry.
Yeah, and so some of their limitations we kind of try to address in our target market. So weight, for example. We're going after consumer product shipments primarily because the batteries will have a significant amount of weight on the trailer. But 2 out of every 3 shipments in the United States is a cubed out load, meaning it fills the volume of the trailer before it hits the 80,000 pound weight limit. So to address the weight, we're targeting our specific market of consumer product goods. Another concern is the recharging infrastructure. So that's why we're focusing on just doing the point-to-point and capitalizing on the existing electric infrastructure that's there, and we can potentially expand upon it as well.
Sorry, just while you're on that point, how do you lock these guys into your blade? I mean, once they've retrofitted the vehicle, why do they need to buy your charging technology, which isn't actually your charging technology, at a 6 cents per kilowatt hour premium?
Yeah, so we plan on installing this and servicing it over the life of the equipment. And we also, like we said before, wanted to incorporate additional innovations such as software and collecting data and use this as that point and add that additional stack kind of the values of our systems. Did you have something to add?
Yeah, so one important thing to note is currently right now, industry standard is 25 cents per kilowatt hour is the kind of the going rate for charging. And we are proposing 6 cents surcharge. Right now, the price is about 12 cents per kilowatt hour, so we're coming in at a cheaper price point, and we'd be right there on their docks, fully integrated. And from the fact that they're able to kind of we're able to test this out at a low capital expenditure up front, it kind of makes sense for them to go with us.
One question though, I think the biggest thing for me, this could be a good idea, is on the scaling, right? Because there's many more trailers than there's a truck head. Right, so you want to kind of focus on the trailer, but then I want to know like how you plan to scale on putting it on the trailers. And number 2, right, if you do point to point, good, but eventually you're going to have more customer, then you're going to maybe be screwed that, okay, now you're going to go everywhere, how you're going to have a charging stations. So if you can just talk about the plan on scaling, that's important.
Yeah, so it's important to note this is our initial target market, and we do plan on expanding. So one example of possible expansion is airport docks. So a lot of these trucks stop at airports to load and unload freight, and if we had a contract set up with, say, Delta Airlines for all their air cargo, and the customers can charge their trailers at the airport while they're waiting to load freight. This is another example of we can hit the trailer on every stop of the journey. There's potential at rest stops for longer distant deliveries, because of the point-to-point, they typically want their drivers home for dinner at night, so it's about a 4-hour journey, so they don't need to stop. But then long haul, there's potential at rest stops and areas like that to expand the infrastructure and gain revenue on the additional freight services, freight applications.
Sorry, but I'm still stuck with your product idea. Like, you see, you mentioned yourself, right? The trailer industry is looking at two things: aerodynamics, reducing weight. But what you do is counter every one of them. You make aerodynamic worse, you added weight. So I don't see how this will eventually get adopted. So, and you haven't built any prototype. You haven't really tried to retrofitting anything. Everything's just on, computer simulation or whatever you do. So I am seriously concerned whether is this just a good idea or is this a business idea?
And that's a great point, and that's exactly where our company's at. We've validated the concept and the interest in the market, and now we need to prove it out on the road. So that's why we're asking for the $1.1 million in funding, is to build this prototype and show that it has benefit for our customers, because they want to see performance results before they do a pilot test.
So I guess to continue on that point, with that 1.1 million, we have broken down to kind of 3 milestone stages. The first stage is to actually finalize, hire another engineer to really get that computer-aided model down. And then the next milestone would be to have a benchworking model, or to use Michael's family's resources to do an initial pilot, probably off-road, as we figure out kind of the DOT regulations. And then from there, we would establish our headquarters in Detroit, Michigan, in order to leverage that vast experience and network.
When I first looked at your business plan, I was really interested because I was thinking, wow, maybe they solved one problem for electric vehicles about where do you put all the batteries? And I thought that you were going to just stack up batteries in the front of a trailer and say, we solved that problem. Because you can't stack up enough batteries on a tractor. But then I saw you made it so much more complicated. Now you still got the diesel truck, right? And now you've tried to integrate some system into the diesel truck. Why not just help them convert to electric? And then all of a sudden, your impact on the environment is 10 times better.
Yes, and that's the long-term goal, but right now there's no electric trucks on the road, and we don't want to be reliant on our customer for buying this product.
So this brings me back to my question, which was like, why are there what's that constraint? Because if you find that the tractor companies are saying, we don't know what to do with the batteries, you can say, we got a great idea, we're going to put them on the trailer.
Yes, and in the long run, when fully electric semi-trucks become more prominent on the roads, we're hoping to accelerate that transition and get our customers more comfortable with the technology to adopt it quicker and increase the demand. And then we want to be the battery pack for the electric
and why not,
cab.
Maybe you're starting in the wrong country. Like maybe if you've got the solution on the trailer for the problem of the heavy pack that can't fit on the tractor, maybe you should be starting in Germany or in China where they need this solution.
Yeah, and that's a potential we've talked about, particularly the Europe market and even the Japanese market. But we have a lot of network here and connections here, and that's really key in the industry and getting adoption and acceptance. And we're also citizens here, so it's a lot easier to start a company. And there is a need, and we've found a general interest here. And expansion to foreign countries is an opportunity for later expansion.
Yeah, but I think it goes back to Robert's comment, right? I think you're still missing the middleware part, because basically if you have like the diesel in the front and you have the electric in the back, there need to be some kind of connection. If you go to any kind of hybrid synergy, you have to kind of like have back and forth, right? And this way, you might be still using a lot of diesel in the front, and then in the back you're pushing, but it's not really doing it. So I think there's a little bit more thing that you have to think into, like how do you do the middle part and how people have to stick with you, because otherwise the barrier to entry and everything is just not going to happen, right?
You see, I think that's the heart of your value proposition, actually, is that connectivity, because otherwise I really fear that your solution and even the other solution that Andrew's proposing is very, very replicable. without that proprietary interest. The other thing I'd just like to understand is that in many ways when I read this, and I did like the fact that you were using the incumbent capital infrastructure in order to provide a solution, but it did strike me that it's only an interim solution. Because if one day we do move to largely electric vehicle fleets, then your current proposition, which is to reduce the diesel consumption, the pain point evaporates.
And that goes back to Dr. Andrews' point of we have all this empty space underneath the trailer bed to house these batteries for the trucks. Potentially you could see all the batteries on the trailer, charging them at the loading docks, and maybe you only need a tiny 30 kilowatt hour battery on the cab. So we saw the downtime.
It's not your space under the truck, and it's not your batteries that you're providing. So where is your value add to that proposition?
So what we believe is, you're right, the kind of general equipment is off the shelf, anyone can buy it and do it. Obviously the big piece is developing the software to kind of back and forth, but also we plan on having some sort of service, having, say for instance, Nike being able to tell where their shipment is, because as of right now, they don't know. They just know it moves from here to here. And so some sort of data
that can't
capture.
be true. I mean, they've got GPS locators on all of their devices. Yeah.
They do, but talking to their sustainability, logistics, global logistics and sustainability, she told me that she doesn't know like what truck is moving from where to where or what's in that truck, but they know that equipment is moving. And
So
Yes, but as an investor in another telematics company, there are plenty of people who are focused on that fleet intelligence and tracking problem. All right, so that's a wholly separate issue to the problem you're trying to solve.
So does this mean that in order for your trailer to work with a truck, you have to have done some pre-work to make sure that the trailer is communicating with that truck? It's not like you can just plug in any truck, right? So this is also an issue about scaling, right? That like, how long, what is the sales cycle for this type of thing to be able to say, we're going to integrate our system into your system, and how many trucks in your system are operating in a way that we can link in? They may say, well, if it was before 1997, our trucks don't, can't hook in with yours. So what's the sales cycle?
So kind of the turnover of the inventory?
It's more like you probably can't go to, let's say, UPS as an example, and then boom, in one day you're just hooked up. It's not like bringing a battery pack and say, hey, I got extra batteries you can just plug in.
Yeah, like how long POC gonna take, and then how long the decision can be made until you actually get the first sale. I think that's
Yeah, kind of on the milestone chart here, we plan on doing the pilot test over the next 12 to 18 months and have the validated results from, say, my family's company. And then we want to go in and pilot at a customer, such as UPS. And we're only talking about a few trailers at first. I think by 2024, we're talking about 4,000 trailers on the road. So we can be very attentive to which ones we're connecting to and make sure we're addressing the market and our systems are compatible.
So what we're saying is beyond that,
Yeah.
that phase of kind of testing, what's your estimate of like how difficult will it be to get them to get the whole fleet operating with your trailers?
And that's why I want to expand our team with software engineers and try to be compatible with, say, Kenworth at first. And then as we continue to develop and grow the business over, say, the next 5 years, we can continue to work and make sure we're compatible with all sorts of the different equipment, so it's just plug and play. So we really want to make this as seamless as possible for the customer so they don't have to think about it.
And have you spoken to any of the semi-manufacturers to find out how long the lead time would be to integrate between their system that measures all these things and your, to develop an API or some sort of integrated product?
We talked to them about that. The specific answer of lead time didn't come up, but we talked to them about it, and as Na said earlier, that they are currently evolving kind of how their electronic systems to have one single component. So I don't have an exact lead time on how long that'll take, but that's something we plan on looking at. So We need a software engineer on the team, and that's one of the things we want to do with this initial round of funding is build that team aspect to help answer a lot of these questions.
But by the time you finish figuring things out, the entire industry is ready to buy a full-fledged EV vehicle, like full-fledged EV truck. See, Mercedes already is very, very close to commercial stage, right now. So let's say along the road, next 4 years, they will be, fully capable of commercialize this thing. So by the time you are ready to start, scaling things up, the industry is already open doors for the full EV vehicle. So, where are you going to be by the time?
And if you look at personal transportation, right now in North America, it's only 1% penetration of current sales. So it takes a long time to make a transition, and the freight industry in particular is very risk averse. So there are a few leaders in the industry, a lot of close followers, and then a bunch of laggers. So it's going to take time to transition away from their diesel assets to electric, and which is where we provide a value, so you don't have to trash this $125,000 piece of equipment you bought last year. You can buy our technology and still make this valuable and get the benefits of EV. So we think there's plenty amount of time in industry before the full transition.
Thank you, Grid Trailer.
Thank you.
I'm glad I'm not on that stage. Thank you.